The views expressed in this video are that of a hobbyist, not of a business owner or a commercial operation. Clear as mud?
Let's see what the sweet feed mash is doing after 24 hours. Ruh-roh. There's motion in there. Isn't that interesting? Not really, but some people have never seen this kind of stuff happening, so I figured I'd throw a quick little short segment at the beginning of this video to show what's happening. Moving on. Okay, I'm back, and I'm on this side of the camera this time. I posted that video a couple days ago to screw with people because, as always, on YouTube you have these snotty little shits that live for nothing more than whining and bitching about things, and they said that my video production skills were total shit. Well, where's the surprise? I'm not a video producer. I'm actually a software engineer and Apple product babysitter. So no, my thing is not producing videos. So I figured I would upload one just to show people how much worse it can possibly get. Deleted those comments and blocked the little fuckers. Anywho, this video I'm going to show you how to make basically the equivalent of Fireball using your own homebrew. Oh, I guess I forgot something. Let me grab this. That's a sample of the finished product. But there you have regular Fireball. You might be able to see kind of the color of that stuff. Fireball is not cinnamon whiskey. Just like Jack Daniel's Tennessee Fire is not cinnamon whiskey. It's cinnamon schnapps that they added caramel coloring to, much the same as the stuff they put in Coke and Pepsi, and probably root beer, who knows what else. But it's cinnamon schnapps with caramel food coloring in it. Bye-bye, Beagle. You're going to hear that a lot. That last batch of whiskey that I made, the rye stuff, this is very similar to it, but it's made with nothing more than corn and oatmeal. Except for this one, because in that previous shitty video, I wanted to take the T500 for a maiden voyage just to see how well it worked. So this is what came out of a gallon of mead. Even though mead is made out of honey, the distillate that comes out does not have a honey flavor. It actually does not taste good. Or maybe it tastes good, but it just tastes so different that I can't identify it. So as you can see with this one, see the oak chips in the bottom? Those are those chips from Jack Daniel's barrels that you buy at any store that you're supposed to put in a wood, or a meat smoker, something like that. And that's after the alcohol was diluted down to 80 proof, and this sat for a week. I know the proper way is not to dilute it and put it in there, and it pulls the flavor and color out much faster. I think it tastes better this way. Let it, dilute it first, then put that in there and be patient. Let it sit for a week or more. This one was done with the oak chips as well, but this was only done in 3 days using vacuum sealing. So vacuum seal, release, vacuum seal, release. It's not quite as dark, but it has a different flavor. It's still made out of the same wood chips, but it seems to have a stronger flavor, even though it's a lighter color. Hard to explain that one. But then, like I said, the mead, this was done with one of those essence bottles because Like I said, I can't really identify the flavor that comes out of the distillate from mead. So I use one of those essence bottles to put really heavy whiskey flavoring into it. So if you do that, if you make your whiskey like that, oak it, whatever, from that point to make Fireball, like a pint, as you can tell, me and some friends had a few sips out of this to test drive it. For every pint, it takes 5 of these Brock's cinnamon disc candies. I run these through a food processor to break them up, powderize them. So you add those 5 plus 1/8 of a cup of sugar to that, and sit there and dissolve it. But I don't know if you can tell under these lights, it's pretty damn close. But this has more of a red tint to it because of the candies. This stuff, clearly they were just using cinnamon oil, which isn't made from real cinnamon, because that's a tree bark. This just has that cinnamon candy flavor. So, after a lot of experimenting using cinnamon sticks and chili peppers to add the heat to it, that'll get you pretty close, but it still has that dry taste that cinnamon sticks have. Because, well, like I said, cinnamon sticks are bark. It's a tree bark. And if you get the shitty ones from Dollar General store or something like that, in the Mexican food aisle, I don't even think that's real cinnamon. I think it's something that has cinnamon powder ground into it, but it has a really weak taste. But I would, thought I would show you this and explain how real cinnamon whiskey should look. And it tastes like cinnamon whiskey. Unlike fucking Fireball, this stuff is schnapps. It's only 66 proof. Jack Daniel's Tennessee Fire is only 70 proof, so that tells you right there it's schnapps, because, why isn't it at least 80 proof? Jack Daniel's is 80 proof. Makes no sense. So I thought I'd go over this, and coming up in the next segment, I'm going to answer a few questions about why I went with the T500 still. I know a lot of people say that it's a beginner's still, but even though my other one that I showed in the previous video is not a beginner's still, there's just so many circus tricks and exercises, like doing stripping runs and stuff like that. I'd rather have it all, all the alcohol come out at 188, 190 proof in one whack, rather than have to go through all the other exercises. So we'll get into that in the next segment of the video, and I'm going to cut this off right here. Maybe. Let us see what the sweet feed mash is doing on day 2 of the fermentation. Kind of slowing down a little. There's still some movement and a lot of bubbles, but at least the churning part of it has slowed down. So as most people say, they like to tell you that the fermentation is actually complete in 72 hours. So if there's any truth to that, tomorrow it should be done and there won't be any motion in there. Oops, there's a little bit of motion kicking up. But we will see. Moving on. Well, here I am one more time with my new pet. Well, I figured, I already have 3 former lab experiment beagles, so might as well adopt a new one. This one's called a Still Spirits T500 Reflux Still. If you go on YouTube and look for a channel, it's called Love Brewing. Some British guy. He's kind of annoying to listen to because he keeps making smacking noises with his mouth. Hate people that do that shit. But he covers the use of this still extensively, as well as those air stills. like the one that I have. Like I said, this was $583 from Amazon delivered, and that's with the sales tax. And then I got this. This is the water pressure regulator. Now, I didn't have this when I took the still for its maiden voyage, but you definitely need one of these. You can see that goes on your faucet. You take off your aerator that you would have on your faucet and twist that on in its place. And there's a float valve in there, like what you would find in a toilet, only a much smaller version. And then a little pump. Oops, I keep going back to this side. A little pump right here, and it pumps water out here to your still, and there's a needle valve up on top here. The beauty of this is that pump maintains a constant pressure. And in my case, since I'm on a well, as you know, or maybe you don't know, residential wells, or something for a house, has a pressure tank in it. So your pump doesn't run all the time. So your pump will pump up the pressure, fill up your pressure tank, and there's an air bladder in there that pushes the water out. And it does a pretty good job in most cases maintaining water pressure, but not in this case. I could have my temperature, or my thermometer up here, reading precisely 55 Celsius, which is 131 Fahrenheit. And the longer it would run, the pressure in the well tank, or pressure tank, went down, and my temperature would start going up. Now, I could either chase this needle valve, which I did for a while as I was running it on its first voyage, but I found that when I started seeing the temperature get up to about 65 Celsius, or 149 Fahrenheit, I would flush the toilet and make the well pump kick back on, and you would see the temperature go down. It would go down to actually below the 55 mark, so nothing would come out. But, if you don't want to do that, which who the hell does, this little thing here, I got it from Mile High Distilling, in Denver. I don't know, they might still be on sale. Their regular price was $100. They had it on sale for $80, and with the shipping, it still came out to about $100, shipping and sales tax. But these are really nice. They're all electric. There's a maximum fill mark right here, and you can get about 6 gallons in it up to that mark. So that's pretty good capacity. Some downsides is that they come with this poly tubing. Now, this is on the water, the discharge water from the cooling. If these are cold, they're rigid as hell. It's hard to bend them around. But once the hot water starts coming out of here, this gets really flexible. But the water line going in was made, out of this tubing here. So your cooling water goes in here, goes up through this condenser, comes out, and then it goes through a worm, a copper coil in there, and then comes out down here. Your distillate comes out of this. Well, I don't like that stuff, so I got silicone tubing off of Amazon. And this is really easy to work with. It stays flexible all the time. It's easy to push onto those fittings, and even the barbed fitting on there. So I went this route for this, and then also for the distillate discharge, because the tube that they sent with it is Teflon, or PTFE, and that is even more rigid yet. I mean, it's like a stick. You could whack somebody with that and get their attention really quick, like. So I used the silicone on that too. These come pre-packed with stainless steel saddles down here and copper ones up here. So you don't have to I don't know, go experiment figuring out which is the best packing for it. Like I said, this thing put out like a cheerleader on prom night. No thinking whatsoever, other than chasing that that needle valve for this. I could not recommend these high enough. They say this is a beginner still, but honestly, I think this is way more advanced than anything I've ever owned before. And the real beauty is that since it's electric, this little temperature sensor for that, I could just as easily use a Raspberry Pi computer and one of the temperature sensors like what I use in the greenhouse, because the Raspberry Pi computer is what runs the greenhouse. I mean, it monitors air temperature, water temperature in the fish tanks, controls a pellet stove, a low-grade boiler, a kerosene blast heater. Did I mention exhaust fans? I don't know. But a little tiny credit card sized computer, runs Linux. I wrote the software to do that. I could easily write the software to control this, and what I mean by control it is like these little needle valves here. Those aren't too hard to adapt to a stepper motor. So it wouldn't be an iStill that advanced, but I mean, you could at least watch it on your cell phone, on your web browser, and control it and do other things. What else? There are a lot of people that like to say that Reflux stills strip all of your flavor out, which is total and complete bullshit, because that gallon of mead that I ran through here, it didn't strip everything out of it. It still tasted like distilled mead, meaning that unidentifiable flavor that I was talking about. Generally, all I ever do, if I make a batch of mead and I go, ew, that didn't come out well, I'll distill it, and then I'll use it to make something like cinnamon schnapps or apple schnapps with those little essence bottles. Well, this time I just dumped a packet of, or a bottle of bourbon essence in it. This stripped out enough of the nasty or odd flavor from the mead that bourbon tastes totally normal now. Boy, I can't really think of anything else. All I can say is, after going through a couple of pot stills, the big one that I showed in my last video, and one that I had before that, I should have got one of these in the first place. Oh, and another reason that I got this. I can't run the pot still in the summertime where it screws with my air conditioning. This I can stick in the bathroom, hook it up to my bathroom sink, run it in there with the fart sucker running. That's what I call them, fart sucker, to pull all the heat out of the bathroom, and it won't screw with my air conditioning. That wobbling was a fat beagle walking by and making the tripod do this, so we're not having an earthquake. But I think that's about it. Like I said, if any of my friends watching this, friends, family, whatever, if you're considering getting a still, I would highly recommend one of these. Yes, I realize that the whole shooting match, the regulator and the still is about $700, but when I consider what I've spent on 2 stills thus far and lots of mistakes and trying to make modifications and stuff, I should have went this route in the first place. I would have saved a lot of money, because I've certainly spent more than $700 on other things that I've owned in the past. So that's about that. I'm going to cut this off here, and we're going to switch to one more clip of the Sweet Feed Mash distilling, and after that I'll upload this to YouTube. I guess, yep, that's it. I have nothing more to say on the topic. Let's see if my little remote control will actually turn off the camera this time. Well, let's see what the sweet feed fermentation looks like on the 3rd day. Uh-oh. Well, it's either still fermenting or there's just a lot of CO2 trapped in the bottom. I'm going to go with it's still fermenting. Like I said, a lot of people seem to think that all of your fermentation is complete in 72 hours. And let's see, it's about 9 a.m. right now. 3 p.m. will make exactly 30 or 72 hours. I don't think it's going to be done. So this is why I let things go 7 to 10 days. Meanwhile, we'll show you something else. You heard those noises. That is going to be peach brandy. And the way I do that is laughably simple. It's 5 of those 2-quart bottles of Welch's Peach Medley. The only reason I use that is there is no potassium sorbate, potassium metabisulfite. That's what's commonly found in what's referred to as Camden tablets. Those are used to stop a wine fermentation early, so you end up with a sweet wine. So if you look at, if you're going to do something like that, look at your bottles to make sure that they don't have potassium metabisulfite and or potassium sorbate, because otherwise it won't ferment. It'll just kill the yeast. So there's that. That's going to be next. That's all. Catch you on the next video, whatever.